In early 2007, Apple's most powerful product was already sitting on death row. The iPod had the white earbuds, the click wheel, the culture, the crown. And in that quarter, this little music player brought in $3.4 billion, almost half of Apple's total revenue. But down the hall, Apple was building the device that would turn its own music empire into a feature. Not because the iPod failed, because it was too important to protect. This is the autopsy of the click wheel. The product Apple killed before someone else could. Before the iPhone made Apple feel inevitable, the iPod made Apple feel alive. It was not the first MP3 player. It was not even the cheapest. That was part of the insult. When Apple introduced it in 2001, it cost $399. It held 1,000 songs. It worked with iTunes. It plugged into a Mac. And for many people, the first reaction was not worship. It was, that's expensive. But Apple was not selling storage. Apple was selling a ritual. Rip the CD, open iTunes, drag the album, plug in the cable, wait for the sync, then hold your entire music life in one hand. The iPod turned a messy digital music library into something you could carry, scroll, and control with your thumb. One little wheel made thousands of songs feel human. The belief was simple. Music deserved its own perfect machine. And at first, that belief was right. The click wheel was not a toy, it was a solution. 1,000 songs sounds magical until you have to find one. Artists, albums, songs, playlists, scroll, click, listen. The iPod made digital abundance feel elegant. That is why this story is not about stupidity. Apple was not protecting some broken product from yesterday. It was holding a masterpiece. And that is exactly what made it dangerous. Because the scariest business trap is not a bad product. It is a great product that teaches a company the wrong lesson. The iPod whispered, "Focus wins." The market was preparing to answer, "No, convergence wins." To understand what killed the iPod, do not look at another MP3 player, look at the pocket. A normal person in 2006 might leave home with a phone, an iPod, keys, a wallet, maybe a small camera, maybe printed directions, maybe a laptop bag, maybe a charger that only worked with one thing. The pocket was becoming a battlefield, and customers were already voting, not in surveys, not in boardrooms, with their hands. Every morning, they chose what was worth carrying. The iPod was still beloved, but the question was changing. It was no longer, what is the best music player? It was, how many devices do I really want to carry? The iPod's real enemy was not Sony. It was not Microsoft. It was not some cheaper plastic MP3 player in a drawer at Best Buy. The iPod's real enemy was friction, and friction always looks harmless until customers stop tolerating it. Inside Apple, the future did not arrive wearing a name tag. It arrived as a fight. One future looked familiar. Take the iPod, add phone calls, keep the wheel, protect the thing people already loved. That was not irrational. It was the obvious move. The iPod had the interface. The iPod had the brand. The iPod had the emotional connection. Why throw away the thing that worked? But another future was forming. A glass screen, no wheel, no permanent buttons, no dedicated music machine. A device that could become whatever the software needed it to become. Wired later described Apple's early phone thinking as an attempt to build an iPod that made phone calls, before the project grew into something much larger. A connected pocket computer people would carry everywhere. That is the real drama. Apple did not just have to beat competitors. Apple had to beat its own best idea. The hardest rival was not outside the building. It was sitting in Apple's pocket. The click wheel was perfect for music because music was mostly a list. Artists, albums, songs, playlists. The wheel could fly through a library because the library had a shape. But the future did not have one shape. The future was maps, photos, websites, email, messages, video, search, games, apps. The wheel could scroll, the screen could transform. That was the fatal difference. The click wheel was elegant because it knew exactly what it was for. The touchscreen was dangerous because it did not. A wheel is a brilliant answer. A screen is 1,000 unfinished questions. And Apple chose the questions. Then, on stage, Apple introduced the executioner as family. The iPhone was not announced as an iPod killer. That would have sounded insane. Instead, it was introduced as 3 products in one. A phone, an internet communicator, and a widescreen iPod with touch controls. That line is the knife, because the iPhone did not defeat the iPod by being a better music player. It defeated the iPod by making music one room inside a much bigger house. The iPod had trained people to trust Apple with their music. The iPhone asked for the rest of their life: calls, photos, maps, messages, the web. Eventually apps, payments, work, identity, attention. The iPod was a kingdom, the iPhone was the continent. And when the continent arrived, the kingdom became a neighborhood. The iPod did not die in a fireball. Apple gave it a quieter ending. First, it became less necessary. Then, it became nostalgic. Then, it became the device people remembered more than they needed. That is a different kind of death. No dramatic bankruptcy, no villain walking away with the market, no cheap rival kicking down the door. The iPod was absorbed. Its best ideas survived. The music library survived. The portable soundtrack survived. The Apple ecosystem survived. But the body disappeared. In 2022, Apple finally said the iPod Touch would be available only while supplies lasted. And Apple's message was almost gentle. The music experience now lived across iPhone, Apple Watch, AirPods, iPad, Mac, and Apple Music. Translation: the iPod was gone because its job had escaped its body. The click wheel died. The music lived. This is why the iPod belongs on the same autopsy table as Kodak and BlackBerry, but with one crucial difference. Kodak protected film, BlackBerry protected the keyboard, Apple protected the future. That sounds clean now. It was not clean then. Killing your own product never feels brave from inside the machine. It feels wasteful. It feels reckless. It feels like betraying the people who made you successful. Somewhere inside every empire there is a product still making money while the future sharpens its teeth. The old product has customers, margins, rituals, defenders, charts that still look healthy. And that is how yesterday's crown becomes tomorrow's cage. The lesson is not destroy everything that works. That is not strategy. That is panic wearing sunglasses. The lesson is colder. When the future is going to turn your product into a feature, you have two choices. You can do it yourself, or you can wait for someone else to do it to you. Apple chose the first, and the iPod paid the price. This was the autopsy of the iPod, the empire Apple buried inside the iPhone. Next, Nokia, the phone giant that saw the smartphone coming and still could not move fast enough, because killing your own product is painful, but protecting it can be fatal.